It's a pirate game. It had to happen. Vice is stranded on a deserted island with naught but a crashed lifeboat in the entire party's inventory. He scouts out the island only to see how deserted it is and that he wasn't the first person to take up involuntary residence here. One Gonzalez, long since dead, had lived here previously. The only belongings he had on his person are his tattered clothes and one half of a map of the local region, which doesn't look familiar to Vice. A storm is rolling in, so Vice takes refuge for the rest of the day in a nearby cave Gonzalez made a home in, and considers his plan to survive and escape from here. Ika and Fina, meanwhile, manage to get found by a blue rogue who must be on the wanted list for having the most garish ship imaginable. Clara, a lady pirate captain obsessed with beauty, romance, and the color pink, found them, nurses them back to health, and drops them off in the port of Nazrad with a small care package to help them get back on their feet. Ika and Fina end up staying in town for several weeks working as waitresses and doing other odd jobs in order to save money for a skiff so they can search for Vice. Vice, meanwhile, has formulated his plan. Step 1. Find food. The island is deserted, but it contains ugly monsters with decent-tasting meat to sustain him. A single pyre spell is all it takes to drop them in a single turn if you are not underleveled. Step 2. Collect wood for a smoke signal. Vice gathers together what dry wood he can to create a smoke signal for any passing ships. Step 3. Gather moonstones. In the event another ship doesn't pass by, Vice will attempt to repair the lifeboat and make it back to civilization in that. After more than a week, Vice manages to repair the lifeboat. The day he plans to set out, a pirate ship appears in the distance, and to his luck, it is a blue rogue ship. Gilder, the captain of the Arcadia, strongly resembles a bottle of Captain Morgan. He's a man's man who lives for women and adventure.
Not the ass!
He takes a liking to Vice almost immediately after hearing his story and agrees to take him back to the nearest port, which happens to be Nazrad, and joins as the party member to replace Drachma. Before we can go 20 feet in this new ship, however, Clara finds them, and as it turns out has a huge crush on Gilder. He enacts an escape plan for the Claudia and her crew to distract Clara while he and Vice escape on a skiff. We make port in Nazrad, and Gilder goes on ahead for a drink in the local tavern while Vice checks into the inn. Turns out the only other residents in the inn are Ika and Fina, who miss Vice by only a few seconds. Yep, we're doing that thing. They head off to the local tavern to collect their pay, and after warding off advances from Gilder, return to the inn to pay off their tab. They find an old man passed out in front. They bring him inside to aid him, and he explains that his name is Pedro and that he was looking for the treasure of Ducat with his friend Gonzalez. They tore the map in half and agreed to look for it together someday before their ship was attacked by pirates. The bad kind. We never saw Gonzalez after that, and Pedro has been stuck here in Nazareth ever since. As he has nothing else to reward us, he gives us his half of the map for saving him, as he is too old to be searching for treasure now. Gilder returns to his room after one more failed pass at Ika and Fina, and sees Vice looking at the map he found back at the deserted island. Gilder identifies it as half of the treasure map of the legendary pirate Ducat, who left all of the treasure he acquired in his life in one place before he died. Fun fact, that first discovery you find while piloting the Albatross is likely Ducat's grave. With little else to do while the Claudia is away, Gilder suggests heading off and finding the treasure. Before they leave, however, Vice remembers what the soldier said back in the Maw of Tardis about Valois' plans to attack Nazrad. They manage to get an audience with the Nasultan, who laughs off their claim and brags about how they are surrounded by impassable mountains and skyrifts, with the only direct channel to them being that narrow passage we guided that merchant to get that pass into Valois way back in the prologue. He ignores the warnings, so Vice and Gilder leave and hope that his confidence is not arrogance. Spoilers, it is. Meanwhile at port, Ika and Fina secured themselves a small ship. They decide to search for Ducat's treasure, as buying the boat and paying off their tab at the inn took everything they had. And if they don't find it, maybe they could buy a boat with all the fight money from all the random encounters just trying to get there. The only hint at where the island could be is a skull, yet another discovery that, like the giant bird and golden man, points directly where you need to go. They find the island, but the mural on the front says, "When the two become one, the path will reveal itself to you." While the girls try and figure out this riddle, Gilder and Vice set off to find the exact same treasure, which they figure is somewhere to the north of Nazrad. They arrive in a separate location from Ica and Fina, and before they can examine their respective mural, the platforms beneath both parties triggers. The way opens for both. Yes, it's going to be one of those dungeons. Arguably the most puzzle-oriented dungeon in the game, it involves moving back and forth between both parties, altering the geometry of the floors to allow the other access. It's an interesting set piece that differentiates it from the other dungeons in the game. Get out of here, Zivil and Bane, this is our treasure! Eventually, both parties are reunited in the final room, just in time for a fight against Ducat's guardians, Sinistra and Dextra. Yes, they are literally called left and right. This fight can be surprisingly difficult if you don't play to elemental weaknesses and focus on a single target. Save for their elemental affinities and respective abilities, both heads have the exact same stat block, so it's better to just focus on one head and be done with it. I prefer to focus on Sinistra first because purple magic specializes in single target damage. Once both heads are defeated, the party proceeds to open the biggest treasure chest in the game, only to find it is completely empty except for one doubloon and a note from Ducat himself telling you that friendship and trust are the greatest treasures in the world. Cheapskate. With the single gold doubloon in tow, the reunited party returns to Nazrad, just in time for the Valwan Armada to breach through the seemingly impassable sky rifts with their new empowered engines and begin laying waste to Nazrad and destroying Gilder's skiff in the process. Ramirez pulls a reverse Sephiroth and walks out of the flames, giving our party a first true introduction to him. Sort of. Fina, of all people, recognizes who he is and insists that we are nowhere near strong enough to beat him. Ramirez also demands we surrender, and considering the circumstances, there is no way we can fight back. So we are the ones captured this time and brought back to Valua. The moon crystals have been confiscated, and now we are the ones awaiting execution. You learn later on in NPC dialogue that the Nasultan was also captured and already executed by this point. Enrique, still playing the good angel role, protests the flagrant displays of fascism, conquest, and genocide, but Teodora refuses to listen. Meanwhile, in our holding cells, Ica gets a conjugal visit from Admiral Vigoro, a burly man who no woman in Valua can resist. Physically. Meanwhile, Gilder has sent his parrot out to deliver news to his crew about their capture. Their response letter comes back with a wire attached, which he uses to pick the lock.
Excuse me, but isn't it customary for the jailbird to get one telephone call?
Clara is also on the way to assist in the jailbreak, which makes him pause briefly to consider if escape is truly the best option. For such a ladies' man, Gilder really doesn't like Clara. Maybe he's afraid of commitment. We gather our belongings and head upstairs to rescue Ica before she requires therapy. Vigoro is unsurprisingly a very meaty opponent, but as we caught him almost literally with his pants down, he goes down fairly easily. We get the key to the cannon room as spoils of victory and make our escape from there. Prince Enrique, meanwhile, wishes to meet with us, but upon learning we have already escaped from prison, keeps his personal guard preoccupied as he attempts to intercept us. Ramirez meets with Fina, and she demands to know why he joined the Valuans, who they were tasked to protect the moon crystals from. This is the first time since her explanation back on Pirate Isle that she has said anything about the Silver Civilization. It should be noted that Pirate Isle and Shrine Isle are directly underneath the Silver Moon. There's very little landmass around there. We scoured them looking for discoveries after getting the harpoon cannon, and we didn't find any other civilization in that area. So where are the rest of the Sylvites hiding? Once we get on the elevator on the outside of the fortress to ascend to the conference room where Fina is being kept, the Claudia and Primrose appear and begin firing at the Grand Fortress to get their attention. The cannon room we ran down the barrel of suddenly explodes, detonating the massive shell as it's being loaded into the barrel. Gilder stepped away briefly 2 minutes ago to leave a parting gift for the Valuans. After disposing of the guards protecting the conference room, we reunite with Fina and head back down the elevator just in time. The Grand Fortress rotates into defensive mode. We dodge searchlights, steal the unholy dagger rod out from under Zivil and Bane, and enter a room with a massive elevator and the Drelkor tank. The tank is actually very dangerous, especially because you will no doubt have forgotten to re-equip Aika and Fina with their armor and accessory, because you will not have known you needed to do so after getting them back. Hell, I forgot, and I played this game in recent memory before making this video. Once the tank is decommissioned, a voice from out of nowhere urges them to get on the lift. They take it up to find Prince Enrique waiting for them. He knows what they are about to do and takes them to the bridge of his personal flagship and one of the coolest ships in any RPG ever, the Delphinus. If there's ever a cool ship in the game, I will, at least subconsciously, compare it to the Delphinus. The Delphinus is a warship with the maneuverability of a cruiser and the armaments and hull integrity of a battleship. We don't just broadside anymore, we have turrets! Enrique lends it to us and also asks to take him with us. He wishes to help put a stop to Valois and his mother's bloodshed and conquest in a bid for world domination, and to definitely prevent them from obtaining the other moon crystals. Speaking of which, he also nicked the moon crystals. Somehow. Weiss takes command of the Delphinus and flies it out of the hangar to come face to face with all -1 of the guns of the Grand Fortress. There's no point in fighting back against the Grand Fortress. The only way to damage it, and the only way to win the fight, is to fire its signature weapon, the Moonstone Cannon. They blow a hole clean through the section of the Grand Fortress that got damaged by Gilder's sabotage, and Weiss pilots the Delphinus through the gaping wound.
Moonstone Cannon, fire!
And with that, Weiss has succeeded in escaping from Valois' clutches. Twice. As Enrique is a prince with no experience sailing, he suggests making Weiss captain of the Delphinus. Gilder announces that he is leaving, as he has his own ship and crew to worry about, and it gives him an opportunity to escape from Clara. Before he leaves, however, he gives us some advice on what to do going forward. First, the Delphinus needs a crew. The ship is a giant compared to the Little Jack and needs a crew dedicated to certain tasks. Marco snuck on board at some point in a bid to leave Valois, so he becomes our first crew member. Second, the Delphinus and her crew will need a place to dock and make berth. Gilder suggests the deserted island Weiss was made governor of for 2 weeks. Thirdly, and of course this goes without saying, he tells us to never give up and to continue aiming higher, as we have already succeeded against many impossible odds even for a JRPG protagonist. With that, he leaves, and we are left to backtrack to all the previous locations we've been to in preparation for the second act. Before we head to the deserted island, we must first make a trip around the world. Granted, this will be easier to do after you complete the story milestone at the island, so tackle these 2 steps in whatever order you see fit. The ship is not yet optimized, so stone reefs and sky rifts continue to be impassable at the moment until you do. We are planted right in front of Sailor's Isle, so our first destination is there. We have a crew to assemble, and every major town we've been to so far, with the exception of one, has at least 2. In Sailor's Isle, we can recruit Lawrence next to the Sailor's Guild after paying him 10,000 gold. Pinta will force himself into our crew in the weapons shop, and Polly in the tavern will join us as a cook in her quest to find her husband, who is rumored to be lost at Sky. Stop by the lighthouse briefly to find a balloon stuck at the top, with a letter attached praying to Ketia to rescue Ixataka from the Valoan invaders. Head off back to Pirate Isle to pick up the local fantasy dog, Pow, as a crew member. Return to Nazrad and talk to Kazim at the top of the port battlements to recruit him as a gunner. When you were playing as Aika and Fina earlier in the game, you could go to the bazaar and speak to a fat merchant named Osman. She refused to lend them money for a ship, and the attack has since left her destitute. Upon hearing that you have a ship, she joins you as a merchant. Stop by the ship parts merchant to change out all our crappy starter gear with new armaments. All the weaponry from the Little Jack is smaller and weaker than even the weakest gun on the Delphinus, so sell them if you want. Stop by the Sailor's Guild to sell Ducat's coin for 20,000 gold. You can only sell it at the Sailor's Guild in Nazrad. Return to North Ocean, where you fought Gordo the Round, and you will see that he has given up pirating and opened up a bistro, which is already bustling and filled with happy customers. Pick up the cham someone dropped and then speak to Domingo, your friendly rival in finding discoveries. If you have been diligent in obtaining all the discoveries to date, you will have found just enough for him to join your crew. Return to Horteka and speak to Tika Tika on the cliff above the Elder's house. If you have already found the Ixness village discovery, he will join your crew as well. Speak to Merida at the tavern. Turns out the bottle message you found in Sailor's Isle was from her, and despite her ship ability being completely worthless, she joins your party anyways. With half of our total motley crew assembled, the party returns to the deserted isle to find two old men there. They were referred to us by Captain Gilder to tune up our ship to go through sky rifts and stone reefs, as well as begin building our base here. In total, the cost of this enormous task is 100,000 gold, not counting the 10,000 we had to pay old Larry. Ducat's coin helps put a sizable dent in this price tag, and finding the rest of the discoveries around the frontier lands takes even more chunks out. If you have been playing smart so far, you can pay Burbam and Ismail immediately and still have money left over to give the Delphinus a proper loadout. But considering we won't be back in familiar skies for a good long while, it's important to get everything else out of the way right now. This includes dropping off whatever moonfish you have at docks. After paying what was half the value of the Little Jack, Vice and the others decide on what their pirate flag should be. You can change these later on and it otherwise serves no purpose other than aesthetics. I prefer to go with Fina's, as she was inspired by the ancient dolphin that the Delphinus was named after. That night, Fina finally explains to us how she knows about Ramirez. He too is a Sylvite, and before Fina, he was sent out to recover the moon crystals. However, he disappeared shortly after arriving on Arcadia, and Fina discovered he was still alive and working with the Voluans all the way back when we were busy rescuing Dine and the rest of the Pirate Isle Blue Rogues. The best we could do is cheer her up and stand by her. There isn't much we can do about Ramirez for the time being, except stay away from him! We just met him, and he's already 2-0 on how many times he can kick our asses. The next day, the Delphinus is ready to go. With her new engines, she is able to cut through sky rifts. Feel free to backtrack the shorter way to Ixtaka and the North Ocean now if you didn't want to earlier. It should be mentioned that you can technically sequence break and get to the Lands of Ice early by going through the sky rift south of the South Ocean. The purple moon crystal won't be accessible for a while, but if you can brave the higher level monsters here, you can get a few extra levels early on and level magic faster in this area, on top of finding some more discoveries to fill out that 30 prerequisite for Domingo. By the time I recruited him, I had 46 in this playthrough, and I forgot a few. After that, head south of Moramba, through the Sky Rift to get to Esperanza, the most depressing place in the game, more so than Lower Valoa. Esperanza, several decades ago, was established as a frontier town that sought to find a path through the Dark Rift to make its way to Yaftoma, the fabled land under the blue moon. All ships that attempted to pass through the Dark Rift, however, were lost, and with no way to Yaftoma, the frontier town was abandoned. Sailors occasionally come here to test their mettle against the Dark Rift, only to go missing or wind up marooned on Esperanza, their hope and ambitions torn apart by the enigmatic forces of the edge of the world. Vice and company arrive at the town. Enrique is airsick, so we leave him with Fina on the pier to recover. We ask around town for information about how to get through the Dark Rift. We head up to the local tavern and find a crestfallen barfly named Don. He explains the Dark Rift is no ordinary sky rift, that its powerful winds rip apart even the most durable ships, and has taken the lives of many talented sailors. As Vice chastises them for giving up on life for this little setback, Fina comes in and tells us the Voluan Armada has arrived. As we prepare to return to our ship, we find an envoy waiting for us with a message from Admiral Gregorio of the Second Fleet. He requests Enrique's unconditional surrender, or they will begin to fire upon Esperanza in the morning. As this admiral has a code of honor, we rest for the night and prepare to counterattack the next day. After we finish off one pedestrian cruiser, Gregorio sends an honest-to-God battleship after us. This is the moment the battle with the Armada officially escalates. Gregorio's fleet is nothing to sneeze at either. Their defenses are robust enough that if you neglect to upgrade your armaments in Nazrad before coming to Esperanza, the fights will become an uphill struggle. Once we deal with the battleship, we face off against Admiral Gregorio's flagship, the Auriga. Compared to the previous fights, this one is pretty exploitable. During the red phases, you will attempt to physically ram your ship. The key is to cast Quick Up before making contact. You will miss completely and be left vulnerable to the Moonstone Cannon. Because of this flaw in his tactic, this is ironically the easiest fight of the three. With his ship badly damaged, Enrique reinforces his conviction to Gregorio as they part ways, that the Empire is heading down a dark path and he wishes to put a stop to it. The Esperanzans are invigorated by the battle, and they begin to dare to hope again as we head off to the Dark Rift. The Dark Rift is an interesting location for many reasons. For starters, it is the first dungeon where we navigate through it in the ship. Second, the Dark Rift is indeed impassable if you try to punch through the current, but thankfully you don't receive damage. Thirdly, at the center of the Dark Rift is a unique discovery, the Black Moonstone. There are quite a few theories related to the speculative Black Moon that the game itself feeds into through several discoveries littered throughout the game. I could go on for a while about this, but I won't. But combined with the voiced desire by the developers themselves to make a sequel, I would imagine it might have had something to do with the Black Moon. We'll never know for certain, especially at this hour. Getting back to the game itself, heading to one chamber branching off of the Black Moonstone will bring us to a shipwreck that contains a lone survivor in it. If Polly is in the crew, she will enter the shipwreck with us and realize that this strange man is actually her long-lost husband Robinson. Seeing his wife again jogs his memory, and he joins our crew. Navigating through the Dark Rift and completing our now daily ritual of fighting Zivil and Bane for an ancient treasure brings us to an exit guarded by a giant mutant moray. I say guarded, more like it's made its nest in the wormhole leading out of here, and it happens to be highly territorial, and more importantly, in the way. Fighting it is no big deal in the Delphinus. All it does is bite and spit poison, and all that can do to the sealed ship is chip damage. Best option is to just stand your ground and prepare to fire a shot from the Moonstone cannon. When an eel has a maw with a frangeel jaw, that's amore. When things are looking dire, then Moonstone cannon fire at the moray. Once the moray is down, we leave the Dark Rift and sail into the uncharted skies of Yaftoma. Yaftoma is almost nothing but clear skies, even by the standards of other territories. Very few landmasses outside of Yaftoma proper exist, and there are plenty of discoveries to find around here. Crossing the Fantasy Great Wall causes us to get attacked by the local air pirates. The power of the Blue Moon makes their ships incredibly adept at maneuvering and capable of flying higher than previously thought possible. Despite this, it's no match for the Delphinus in a dogfight, even with the Moonstone cannon tied behind our back. We are then boarded by their twin captains, Zhao and Mao. Even without any weapons to speak of, they take Vice and the crew by surprise with the local invention, martial arts. After a fight with the twin captains, they retreat back to their conjoined ships and retreat to high altitude. With them out of the way, we head to Yaftoma proper. The locals are confused and intrigued by our non-black hair and eye colors. A royal guard ambushes us, believing us to be invaders, but before a fight breaks out, another more reasonable guard comes to escort us to the Imperial Palace for a meeting with Emperor Mikado himself. We state our intentions to take the Moon Crystal to safeguard it from fascists. Naturally, the Blue Moon Crystal, or Magasphere as they call it, oh no, is a sacred relic of the Yaftomans, but it has been in the heart of Mount Kazai, inaccessible to them since times antediluvian. He permits us, however, to retrieve it, but we'll have to take one of their ships, as the mountain peak is too high up for the Delphinus to travel. While exploring the town, you can drop off the waterfall in one of the tugboats to a lower island where you can recruit Kerala to your team as a builder, and then head back upstairs to the tea house, where you can recruit her sister Urala as a second cook. After replenishing our supplies with Rizalim crystals that are guaranteed a full HP revival and updating our equipment on both foot and ship, it's time for us to head up to Mount Kazai. Do you like the water temple from Ocarina of Time? No? Well good, because this isn't that. This water temple is actually pretty straightforward. There's barely puzzles. We are given a dive suit for underwater travel before entering. The first thing we need to do is fill up the central chamber with water. There are 2 branching chambers and a button in each of them. One of them contains a chest being guarded by Zivil and Bane, who managed to follow us through the Dark Rift into this alien land. Was he stowing away on our ship too? Was it in that other compartment on the bridge? Filling up the central chamber will enable us to dive to the bottom. After opening the only other chest in the dungeon, it's a straight shot to the end past some scripted fights. In the central chamber, we deal with the Tortigar, which might be the most annoying main story boss in the game. It frequently uses Steel Skin, which renders it invulnerable for that turn, and Sacrolin, which is a full heal. It's vulnerable to stone, however, so if Athena manages to petrify it with Lunar Glyph, you could just pummel it uninterrupted until it dies. After retrieving the Blue Moon Crystal, I refuse to call it the Magasphere, we return to the Emperor. He's hesitant about just letting us abscond with their sacred relic immediately after recovering it, for understandable reasons, but he also understands that we have to safeguard it from fascists looking to conquer the world with it. He just asks to keep it in the kingdom's possession for now, and we can have it back when we are ready to leave the country. The weaselly-looking Counselor Kangan's equally weaselly-looking son Miraji comes to us in the middle of the night and mentions that he and Princess Moegi are to be wed. She refuses to marry him, naturally, but because of archaic patriarchal laws about imperial rule, only a man is allowed to be emperor, and her brother Daigo was exiled some time ago for treason. Enrique suddenly steps forward, his code of chivalry getting the better of him, and all but threatens to throw down with Miraji. He scurries away with his tail between his legs, and as he begins to plot his revenge, an old enemy of ours suddenly appears before him with a proposition. The next day, as we are about to leave and take the Moon Crystal with us, black ships suddenly appear around Yaftoma with guns aimed at the city. But it's not Commodore Matthew Perry this time, it's the Volumen Armada. They got around sailing through the Dark Rift by shooting a massive hole in the impassable ice reef bordering Exataka with their biggest and loudest guns. And because it's Admiral Vigoro leading the fleet, that gun must be very big and loud indeed. He must be compensating for something for sure. Hey, wait a minute. You know she's 17, right? Ah, screw it. This is well before modern age of consent laws anyways. Beleza is also there. Vigoro came to rescue her from having to walk back to civilization through the desert at some point and brought her a new engine for her ship. They are here as Imperial representatives, so we shouldn't fight back lest we become the bad guys. The Delphinus is surrounded by warships too, so getting back to her is impossible at the moment, so the party heads back to their rooms to wait out the meeting. Despite being more reasonable than most of the rest of the Empire, Beleza and Vigoro use intimidation to try and coerce Emperor Mikado to let Valois occupy Yaftoma, and when that doesn't work, they take the Emperor hostage. And Kangan and Miraji position themselves as puppet rulers in his place. Princess Moegi manages to get away and comes to tell us that the Emperor is taken prisoner and now the soldiers are coming for us next. There isn't much we can do, and of course the Delphinus has been commandeered by the snivelly little backstabbers, so our best course of action right now is to lay low while we come up with a plan to fight back. Moegi opens a secret passage in the back of the room, and we escape through the tunnel to a vessel. It takes us to the skies, far higher than we've ever been, to the point that even the towering Mount Kazai is a speck below us. The vessel takes us north to an ancient temple where Moegi's brother Daigo was exiled to after ignoring his royal duties, and the place is crawling with Tenko. After fighting through the Tenko, we get to the temple proper, where the twin captains Zhao and Mao are waiting for us. Before we throw down with them again, we are stopped by Prince Daigo, whom after his exile, became leader of the Toja clan. Daigo became leader of the local air pirates, the Tenko, after beating Zhao and Mao in a fight, and managed to control them so they would stop attacking and terrorizing the locals. And now that Yaftoma is in peril, he must come out of exile and aid us in driving out the Voluans and punch Kangan very hard in the face for his betrayal. And punch Miraji too while we're at it. The plan is set. While the Tenko engage in a firefight with the Voluan Armada, Daigo will fly us close to the Delphinus on his flagship and we will board and retake it. Kangan, meanwhile, has gone to Mount Kazai to awaken the Gygas to destroy the foreigners and all other opposition to his new imperial rule. As expected, the Tenko, whose ships are made of wood and rice paper, don't stand much of a chance against solid steel Spanish warships. Heavy casualties are incurred, but not before Vice and company jump onto the main deck and fight off the usurpers. Getting to the bridge has us fight Miraji and his entourage, which are little more than normal goons that he can summon back. With the Delphinus retaken, the Tenko withdraw as we square off against Vigoro and his penis substitute of a flagship, the Draco. This will be perhaps one of the most dangerous bosses you will deal with in the Delphinus for a long while. The Vigoro cannon will mess you up, but as long as you have Incrum up, throw Dronlos on the Draco and keep throwing Sacros grade heals or better on the Delphinus, you should survive this. All in all, it's not a complex battle. This is a slugfest of signature attacks between you two, and nothing can cause his cannon to misfire, so once you put up your defenses, throw Moonstone cannons on him until he goes down. As the Draco limps away, Baleza's ship approaches to square off with you, but before you can engage, the familiar summoning light from Mount Kazai draws everyone's attention. The blue Gygus Blueheim is awakened. After decimating the Valo and Armada with a powerful windstorm, the survivors, Baleza and Vigoro included, all retreat. As we should expect at this point, we aren't going to obtain a moon crystal without first fighting its respective Gygus. Unlike the previous encounters, however, there will be no clever gambits to save us, but we are in the most powerful flagship in the Armada. We are shooting that son of a bitch out of the sky. Blueheim is considerably less destructive than Vigoro's giant gun. Nothing will really endanger you if you remember to equip the most recent magic defense equipment for the ship. The main issue with this fight comes from Blueheim's incredible dodge rate and the hidden target lock mechanic. Tika Tika and torpedoes are a godsend here, but even if you lack both of these things, you'll eventually get the opportunity to shoot it out of the sky with the Moonstone cannon. Congratulations, you killed one of the precursor weapons! Look out below! Its corpse crashes into the side of Mount Kazai, and you retrieve the Blue Moon Crystal. Kangan and Miraji are exiled to Tenko Island as punishment for their insurrection. They're honestly lucky they weren't boiled alive or pulled apart by horses. Emperor Mikado gives us a scroll containing the secrets of Yaftoma's high and low altitude air travel, and Princess Moegi comes to aid us in our quest as a crewmate. We leave Yaftoman airspace and head east because screw going back through the Dark Rift. If you remember, the Balwan Armada was able to get to Yaftoma by shooting a hole in the ice reef bordering Exataka, and sure enough, there is a massive hole in the reef now. Make your way back to Crescent Isle, and brace yourself for your new home. Your very own pirate base.